Yo, 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 welcome. You're listening to Arcade Future, and today I want to talk about something that's been on my mind lately. Something about gaming that I've been realizing, something about the type of games that I like to play, and I like to call this genre or niche that my YouTube channel will be about, and I'd like to call it arcade style. Because I was thinking, if you know me, you know I'm a big fighting game fan. I love fighting games, Street Fighter, Tekken, Mortal Kombat, etc. But I also like FPS games, and I also like action adventure games, some RPG games. I love roguelikes. There's so many different types of games that I like to play, but I was trying to figure out what's the common theme amongst all these games. I've been playing a bunch of different games, getting back into gaming, exploring all kinds of genres, figuring out what I enjoy, what works and what doesn't, and why. Why do certain games work for me, why they don't, and just trying to find the common element between all the games I do like, so I can figure out, how am I going to present these games to you on the channel? Because I just don't want to talk about every single game under the sun, and I don't have time to play every game. But there are some games that I really, really love. And when you do content creation, when you're doing artwork, when you're YouTubing, you guys know you kind of have to, do stuff that you actually are passionate about. You have to do things that actually interest you so you could do it for a long time. And one thing that keeps standing out to me that I love is arcade games. And I think arcade style games are some of the best types of games you can play. And I don't mean arcade game that means, it only got an arcade release. But what is an arcade game? Let's break it down. Arcade style games have key characteristics that set them apart. Now, does a game need to have an actual arcade release to be considered arcade style? Of course, like I said, not at all. What defines an arcade game is that it's simple, it's intuitive, it's easy to learn, the controls are not complex, they're designed for quick, intense gaming sessions. You want to think about classic shoot 'em ups and beat 'em up games from the 80s and 90s. To play those games, you had to be locked in. You had to be quick with your reflexes. You got right into the action the moment you press start, and I like that kind of. I like games which it's rare nowadays, but they don't have a tutorial. It's just like you need to fight. I like games like that. I do appreciate a good tutorial too, but I also just like learning the game as I go. And I think Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, a game that I've been playing a lot of lately, is like people love that game because they're realizing the further they go into it, how deep it is. They're realizing that there's levels to the game as far as complexity because, there's higher difficulties. And there's like a huge intricate combo system embedded within the game, but they don't tell you how to do it all. And I think that's a really, really charming of the game. And I remember watching some old Mega Man analysis videos back in the day of like Mega Man X and stuff like that. They don't really tell you how to play that game. You got to figure it out. And I like for people to discover it themselves. These games, they typically have an increasing difficulty as you play an arcade style game. The design is built around challenge, and like back in the day, they were designed to take your quarters. But that style where the game gets progressively harder, it still exists today. And it does exist in some FPS games, roguelikes, platformers, beat 'em ups, third-person shooters, action RPGs. This arcade element is literally everywhere right now. But it's its own type of genre because some people do prefer a complex game. But the arcade style is still there, especially with indie dev. And these are the games that throw you straight into the gameplay. There's no long-winded tutorial, no overly complex storylines. You just get in and you go. They test your skills immediately, and as you progress, the challenge ramps up, and I love that. I love a game that just lets you dive in, play, and feels like, I'm improving every time I pick it up. I was playing TMNT Shredder's Revenge, the Ninja Turtles game, online with some friends recently, and it reminded me how much I appreciated the arcade-style games like 6-player co-op, vibrant graphics, amazing music, satisfying sound effects, variety of characters, and most importantly, an actual challenge, a game where you have to think, you need skill. It tracks your high scores, so there's a slight competitive element even in the co-op. It's just great, and it reinforces my point. Arcade games are still some of the best experiences you can have in gaming, and they don't require too much if you don't want to dedicate too much to them, and we need games that are like that. The games are quick. You can hop in, hop out. You don't need to dedicate a ridiculous amount of time. And for those who want to challenge, arcade style games usually let you adjust your difficulty. Like, I love when a game lets me pick the difficulty before I even create a character. Bonus points of a game actually explains what changes between difficulty levels. And I just can't stand like a lot of the times when you turn on a new game and it's like create your character immediately. And it's like, I don't even know if I'm gonna like this game yet. You know what I mean? I don't even know if I'm gonna like the combat loop. You know, I don't know if I'm gonna appreciate this game. And I know for some people, the character creation is the fun part of the game for them. You know what I mean? But I'm not really like that. I'm not a person that cares about creating my character that much. It is a cool feature. I remember in Soul Calibur 3, where you could design and create your own character for the first time in the Soul Calibur series, which was definitely new for fighting games. That was incredible. But it's not like the gameplay means more. The mechanics mean more to me, you know? And when I talk about difficulty in games, I don't think it should be unfair. I like a game that's still fair, where it's still like, it's still super difficult, but the margin of error is just reduced, right? That you can make. And I think a game should be tough. It should push you. I like when higher difficulty means enemies require more strategy and effort, not just that you die in one hit, you know? And I think that it shows a lot of the dev team if they've been able to make a balanced, extremely difficult game and its higher difficulties, you know? I think Doom Eternal does this really well. Very difficult game. It basically rewards you for getting the base mechanics down, but the enemies are still defeatable. You're still able to overpower the enemies if your base core mechanics are good. And there are features and mechanics in the game that allow you to evolve your skills if you want to. And I think Doom Eternal did so well because of its arcade elements, you know. I like when an arcade game has an actual arcade mode, a mode where you can see how far you can get on one credit. That is a cool feature if they actually call it arcade mode. And that's an amazing design choice. I think more games should embrace it. Fighting games used to always have arcade modes. Tekken 3, for example, you know that game, classic. But over time, that mode has just been phased out in a lot of fighting games, and that's a shame because arcade-style gameplay is classic to me. It's timeless. A great example of arcade-style games, I think, like I said, Ninja Gaiden Black. It's all about skill, progression, short but intense levels, intuitive combat, increasingly challenging enemies. I think racing games with simplified physics like Burnout, those are great arcade-style games. There was a game called The Club, totally underrated, where it's all about, you know, shooting enemies through these trials, you know, as fast as possible and getting a high score. You know, that is a great game design to me, incredibly underrated. I hope to review it on this channel later. Rhythm games are great. Love watching other people play those. I'm not the best at them, but they all have this arcade style DNA. Even simple mobile games like Tetris, classic game I grew up on, incredible game, simple, straightforward, to the point, challenging, rewarding. Fruit Ninja, which is a mobile game, but it's also really good for what it is. You know, these are the type of games I grew up with, the ones that I enjoy the most and the ones I want to cover more on this channel. If you're into straightforward games, if you want reviews and breakdowns of games that cut straight to the point like I do, this is the place to be. I'm your homie, Arcade Future. You know, arcade style games go beyond just nostalgia. They fit into how I see gaming and even life in general. I love depth in games. I appreciate the complexity, but at the same time, I love practical. I love accessible, engaging gameplay. I find joy in introducing people to simple games that are easy to pick up, but still offer a challenge. And I think that's why like fighting games like Tekken and Street Fighter are great, because it's like you press buttons and you're doing stuff, but the levels of complexity and the levels to outplaying the opponent are vast. You know, it's fun to watch someone get completely drawn in by a game that only uses 2 buttons, like a beat 'em up, for example. You know, Streets of Rage, for example. You know, not every game needs to be open world epic like Grand Theft Auto. You know, GTA is great in its own way, but it's a completely different experience, you know, not one that's my favorite, but one that I can appreciate. You know, arcade style games, they engage a different part of your brain. They throw you right into the action, force you to sharpen your skills, and demand quick decision making. Lately, I've been playing No More Heroes 3 a bit, and I love its arcade influences, the retro aesthetic, the snappy gameplay. That's what I'm looking for in games, and it's challenging. I put it straight on the hardest difficulty, and I'm playing the first boss. It's not easy. You know, you have to obey the rules of the game, and you have to be consistent in your gameplay. And those are the type of games that I want to share with you. There are so many games, especially in the indie scene, that embrace arcade design well, and it still feels fresh and modern. You know, RoboQuest, a game that I've talked about a lot, is a perfect example. It's a roguelike, but it has that arcade feel, fast-paced action. You get a score at the end of each level, skill-driven gameplay, there's no fluff. Doom Eternal's Horde Mode, another FPS. It's not a fighting game, but it's a shooter. Also, big on the arcade style. You know, it's about getting locked in. It's about pushing your reflexes and having fun. You know, and then when you're done with the game, you turn it off and you live life. These are the kind of games that I think are really special, and I want to highlight them here on this channel, arcade style. So if you love arcade style games, whether it's classic or modern interpretations, you're in the right place. Let me know your favorite arcade style games in the comments. I appreciate everyone riding with me on this journey. We've got a lot more videos coming up and a lot more games to talk about. It's going to be incredible. Like, comment, subscribe. You know what to do. Let's keep this going. You're watching Arcade Futures.